Good evening, friends, and welcome to Ghastly Manor. I know you are here seeking to enter the vault and to explore the gruesome collection of stories contained within. Please follow me to the vault. Walk this way. This was a paranormal story that happened to my mom when she was 9. Her and her family lived in the outskirts of a small town in Monterey Bay area in 1975. The house my mom lived in was on top of a hill with a winding road leading up to it, facing a lake. There's no neighbors, and the other houses were a distance away. What my mom knew of the house was that it was built in 1927. It was an old white wooden Victorian house. She said it was completely off to be out in the hills far away from Watsonville, California, a small town about 25 minutes east of Santa Cruz. It started off as a community for immigrant workers who came here for a better life. She said that the rooms were big, with plastered walls and massive windows in every room, and that it had been repainted so many times in the house's history that the windows were sealed shut. Mom recalled that the windows were so high off the ground that you couldn't break into them. I'll warn you ahead that this is pretty disturbing, and if I sound dramatic, it's from my mom's point of view that I'm writing this down, so bear with me. My grandparents worked far, as they worked in the fields when Mom and her siblings moved to live in the United States from Mexico. They often left my mom and my tias and tios by themselves, with my older tia in charge. Mom and her siblings were used to being by themselves for long periods of the day until my grandparents would come home from work. She says that the property around the house had an old barn and a shed full of rusty farming equipment. My mom and her siblings would spend the day exploring the nooks and crannies of the buildings, often pretending that they lived in those times and role-played. But often, Mom and her younger sister Leticia talked about strange things that would happen to one or another in or around the house. Tia Letty told my mom about the incidents that were happening to her. She would lie in her bed, looking up at the corner of the ceiling. She would tell my mom that she could see that the corner was bellowing, like it had lungs. She would be so scared she would run out of the room. That was Tia Letty's recollection of what happened to her. But then, it was my mom's turn. One evening, Mom lied in bed facing the wall when she was sleeping. She always locked the door to her room, being there in the dark by herself. She said that she would be in that state where you're half asleep and half awake. But then she felt an ominous weight at the edge of her bed. She was chilled with fear because she knew no one could possibly be in the room with her. She said she felt a motherly presence that was watching her as she slept. Mom wouldn't even dare to turn her head to look at whatever it was that sat on her bed. She was too scared to look at it because she thought she would die of fear if she saw what it was. She spent the whole night praying that it would go away and leave her alone. That was one of the many incidents that happened to her in that house. There was a second mysterious situation where my mom would hear knocks as if someone were there in the house with her. Mom would run to the door, excited when she heard the knocks at first, but no one would be there. She says that it happened at random, 2 or 3 times in a day alone. She thought it was someone pulling a prank, but it dawned on her that she had no neighbors for miles around. That's when she became scared. Eventually it stopped, but it stayed in her. Mom was becoming increasingly frightened because nothing would add up. She said she remembered that when the door knock stopped, there would be soft tappings between the walls. In the beginning, she thought she was hearing things and didn't pay any mind to it. But she constantly kept hearing those soft taps from inside the house, day or night. Mom didn't want to tell anybody because they would discount it that it was her imagination working overtime. Her mind was slowly becoming fearful to what it could be. So one night, my grandparents left to go food shopping in another town, and Mom decided to stay by herself because she thought it was boring. But she completely forgot all about the things that were happening in that house. So later on, Mom was sitting in the living room because they had left early, and she was thinking in her mind that they would come home before dark. She was there in the living room, all alone, while it's completely pitch black dark outside. She said that all she heard were the frogs croaking by the lake and the crickets chirping. Mom said she was getting a feeling that she was being watched through the windows, but the windows were so high for someone to look through. At that point, she was running around the house like a headless chicken, full of panic and fright for her bad decision, a decision that she regrets to this day. Like if it couldn't get worse for my poor mom, the tappings came back, but louder. Mom was thinking that she was becoming insane or that fear was grabbing hold of her head, so she decided to confront whatever it was that was doing that. She started to follow the noise where the tappings were coming from. It was towards the very back end of the house, near the back door. As she inched closer and closer, she put her ear against an inner wall of a small dark closet near the back door where the knocks were coming from. And what she told me next gave me goosebumps typing this down. She said that she heard the loud wailing noise of a baby bawling and crying as if it were trapped inside the closet. Mom didn't even bother to check this because it shook her up. Then, for a quick moment, the tappings inside the house came back, but much louder, as if someone was banging on the door. She ran all the way to her room and locked her door and went to get her rosary. Mom waited for what she felt like was forever for her family to come home. After that, she never thought about staying home alone again. After Mom was done hearing things, she said she would finally see what was doing all this ruckus. Yet another dark night, in the middle of summer, Mom and her siblings were eagerly waiting for her dad to come home from work. She ran to the back door anticipating his arrival. Mom opened the door and without hesitation, and she remembers that she was completely scared of what she saw next. She says that at a distance close to her, she saw a solid white soul, shaped like a woman. It was floating across the backyard, going from one corner of the old barn to the other corner. This is where an old watershed used to be standing that was demolished right after my mom moved in. It was knocked down because my grandparents were concerned that the old dilapidated shed would cave in while Mom would play in there with her brothers and sisters. When the woman reached the shed, she disappeared into thin air. Mom was speechless of what she saw and ran back into the house to my abuela. She couldn't even speak to my abuela, and after a while, when the fright left my mom, she told abuela of what it was. My abuela told Mom something chilling. Since my whole family was Catholic, they kind of believe in the supernatural. My abuela thought that the ghost was trying to contact my mom. Mom said she didn't want to hear anything to do with the woman. Abuela said that if Mom didn't call her out, that the woman wouldn't stop trying to communicate with my mom. It's odd because it just happened to her and only her, and not her siblings. Abuela mentioned to Mom to say to her, "What do you want?" Mom complied, and when she did it that night, the woman never responded to her. and all the paranormal things stopped. Now that my mom told me this, she recalled that Tia Letty researched about the house's history and freakishly found out that there were 5 children that lived in the house, just like my mom's family of 5. But if that wasn't scary enough, 4 of the 5 children's names were the exact same: Jose, Anthony, Francisco, and then my mom's name, Maria. Disturbingly, one of the children were killed by a stray gunshot of a bullet in the house that was built in the 1920s. But the barn and the shed were built during the gold rush in California. I theorized that the woman thought my mom was the child who died in the house and wanted to contact her to see if she was her child. Just recently, last week, we went to Watsonville for a family event, and Tia Letty told us that the house no longer stands. It was demolished a couple years ago. Mom told me that this would be the first and last time she'll ever tell this, as she felt scared by this even to this day. I will never forget what my mom had endured. I'm glad that she made it through, up to this day, for me to see her, to be with her. And Mom, no matter what, I will love you forever. So I am a 17-year-old dude who just moved to South Carolina just 6 months ago. This happened a couple of hours ago, and I'm still not sure what to think. I am beginning to make bakens, or Japanese wooden swords, for those who don't know. Earlier today, I put 2 bakens that I have been working on outside my garage to dry in the sun. There is a feral but extremely loving cat whom we named Honey, that lives outside our house that my mother and I take care of. I'm sorry if these seem like random tidbits, but they all tie together later on. Earlier today, I was outside clearing some bushes from near a stream in my backyard. So it's about 7 p.m. and it's just starting to get dark. I go outside to bring the cat into the garage overnight. Let me explain the layout. When you walk out of the garage door, to the right, about 40 feet, is a stream with the bushes. This is where I was working earlier. Directly ahead of the garage door, about 10 feet, is where I'm drying the bakens. To the left is the front and driveway of my house. So I call the cat over, who is chilling in the front of my house. Honey stops walking towards me about 10 feet away and starts growling at something around the stream. I instantly get nervous since she is not one to growl without purpose. I look over, but it's too dark to see anything. I pick her up and hurriedly bring her in the garage for the night. About 5 minutes later, I remember the sticks, so I put on my shoes and go out to the garage to go outside. Honey is around the center of the garage, just staring at the door. I think nothing of it, but when I walk up to the door to unlock it, she hisses at me. I freak out a little, since Honey has never hissed at anything as far as I know. I almost decide not to go outside, but since the sticks are literally 10 feet from the garage, I say, "What the hell, I can take care of myself." I should mention that I am very strong for my size, 6 feet and 130 pounds, so I don't scare easily. So I walk out and the air seems off. I hear a faint rustle from across the stream. I grab my bakens and stop halfway to my garage and look at the stream, weapons raised. I wish I was making this up, and I am sure as hell thankful that I didn't see whatever the fuck this piece of shit was. Anyone who has played Black Ops 2 Zombies knows the sound of a zombie. Now mix that with a Sasquatch call, and you will get this sound. There was a huge rustle in the bush, an unholy sound of said Sasquatch/zombie, and a splash and charging footsteps. I promptly hopped on the nope train to fuck that Ville, and dashed into the garage, slammed the door, and double-locked that bitch. The footsteps stopped, and I heard them walk slowly back towards the stream. I looked behind me to see the cat with her fur and tail sticking up, hackles raised, and slightly growling. I stood there, tossed the smallest of the 2 bokkens to the ground, and kept the largest bokken in my hand. I eventually relaxed slightly enough to feed the cat and walked inside. I turned on the backlight, but saw nothing. I told my mom, but she doesn't really believe me. She does agree that there might have been something outside, though, as she knows I don't make shit up. I have never felt terror like that before. I should also note that from opening the door to running back into the garage took about 15 seconds. I will check the area tomorrow in the safety of the light and update if I find anything. I also want to state that this is 100% true, and I am concerned about leaving that cat outside at night. So, Sasquatch creature, or perhaps weird dude hiding in my bushes that tried to chase me? If somehow you possess the knowledge to use Reddit and are reading this, let's not meet again, because I do know how to use something a lot sharper than a piece of wood. What's up, guys? Ghastly Ghoul here, and thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I also want to let you know I've been a fan of the horror narrators here on YouTube for about a year now. They're all awesome guys and gals, and they've been great inspirations for me to start my own channel. Please check out my list of subscriptions under my channels tab so you can go visit their channels. They're all very outstanding. If you like the video, please click the thumbs up button. I'd really appreciate that. Please comment and share. Also, I'd love to assemble a ghastly gang of subscribers. Please consider joining the gang by hitting that subscribe button. I would be honored to narrate your personal true scary stories. You can email them to me at my email address listed below. If you could please just put a short description in the subject line, and also if you could include a statement that you give me permission to narrate your story, that would be great. Also, please follow me on Twitter and like me on Facebook. That way you can keep up to date on what's happening with the channel. The links are below. And now, we must part ways, my friends. You are safe for the time being, but I feel you are living on borrowed time. For you never know what ghastly horrors await you in the vault.